Welcome back to Talk the Truth podcast.
I tried to pay, he begged me to stay. Babe, I'm not staying, I just wanna play. In the party, you just wanna rock.
Today's hot topic, freedom of speech. Should it be absolute or limited in certain contexts?
Exactly. People love saying, I have the right to speak freely, but do we really want unlimited freedom even when it spreads harm?
Later, someone posts fake news that the metro is about to hit Malaysia tomorrow, and that makes everyone panic. Everyone is literally running to the store to get Maggie and durian.
Actually, speaking of fake news, there is a real case just happened yesterday. A uni student spread false info online and got arrested. Let's take a look.
Breaking news, a man has been arrested for spreading fake information on social media. Authorities said his post caused widespread panic buying and public disorder. He may now face criminal charges. Now we can see him entering the court with the escort of the police.
Your Honor, the defendant is charged with spreading fake news on social media. Because of his post, thousands of Malaysians rush to buy thousands of Maggi, causing congestion in supermarkets and create unnecessary problems to supermarkets, society and Maggi company. What does the defense have to say?
Your Honor, due respect, my client only shared one meme or one post on Instagram, just one. And then Malaysian panic because they love Maggie me, if not because of him. Most of them Malaysian love Maggie me. You cannot blame him posting that he likes Maggie me. What's wrong with that? Thank you, thank you, Your Honor.
Objection. His post clearly said that government announced no more Maggi Me tomorrow, which caused chaos nationwide. So what do you have to say about that?
我们一生注定是沧桑。
Dear Judge, with all due respect, Malaysia doesn't need fake. Malaysia have a lot of fake news occurring around in social media, and then why there are no action taken for those who spread the fake news in social media? Why my client who's might love Maggie me, is it wrong? But it doesn't cause harm to anything, doesn't cause any economic harm or anything to the nation. Well, the more extremist side, they're talking about all the spreading of fake news, they are not taking action. Instead of my client, who's talking about Maggie me, which is not a serious case, they're taking action in the court. It doesn't make sense. That's all for me.
The court acknowledged the importance of free speech, but whenever enact chaos that freedom turns into a weapon, the law must draw the line and make an example. Therefore, the court finds the defendant, Nigel, guilty of spreading false information. And hereby, the court sentenced that the Tan Nigel is guilty for death sentence. What the...
Good night, bye.
Well, what we have here?
I just spread fake news. They say I caused national chaos.
Fake news? Bro, I respect that. The last person was here. He stole a Milo packet. What the heck?
Thanks, I guess. What about you?
Me? I'm stuck here for stealing a police cone. Life is so unfair.
Wait, you stole a police cone?
Yup. They said it's endangering the traffic flow. I call that a modern art. Relax, bro. I'm not dangerous.
Right. I'll just sit over here.
Unless you're a Koon. Anyways, welcome to your new home. No fake news, only real traffic rules and free meals.
I tried to pay, he begged me to stay. Babe, I'm not staying, I just.
As we saw, spreading misinformation can have severe consequences. Even a seemingly harmless post can trigger panic, chaos, or financial loss.
Exactly. Freedom of speech is essential, but it comes with responsibility. False information on social media can literally ruin lives or careers, or literally grocery stores.
True, but overly strict regulations can backfire. Imagine being arrested for posting a harmless meme about someone's hair. Suddenly your fried noodle hairstyle becomes a capital offense.
Or worse, posting a joke about Maggie Mee and then getting sentenced to death, while people who steals on the web is your cellmate.
Exactly, this is what makes these topics so absurd. Meme killers versus real criminals in jail. Life is unfair. Hilariously unfair.
Even satire can get you in trouble. Imagine tweeting durian shortage causes nationwide chaos. Boom! Everyone panics, you go to jail, and the durian farmers make millions. Irony at its finest.
Meanwhile, your crush believes your fake news and your live life dies faster than your meme career. Some consequences are more painful than the death penalty.
The moral? Freedom is precious, but don't post dumb stuff or you'll end up in jail with someone who actually deserves to be there.
The real question is,
so how do we balance freedom with responsibility without turning fried noodle hair into a federal crime?
For doing you, and we are asking a short question about freedom of speech.
No problem. Happy to help.
Thank you so much, sir. Okay, the first question is, what is your understanding about freedom of speech?
Okay, to me, freedom of speech is the freedom to speak the truth, but also with wisdom. It's about conveying something freely, but also conveying something which is truthful, right? Not biased. Something which is going to be giving out a fact. And a lot of times, not many are free to do this, but freedom of speech essentially means that you're free to convey a message which you believe is true.
Okay, my next question is, do you think that freedom of speech is applicable in today's world? Like you see on Instagram, on Facebook, they are putting on hate comments or racial discrimination, but this kind of thing, do you think it's applicable?
Is it acceptable? Okay, so of course, freedom of speech is acceptable, but there must be some control of it. You know, if there's no control, then anybody says whatever they want to anybody at any given time, and of course, that's not very correct. You know, you can build someone up with words, but it's also so easy to destroy them, right? And like you mentioned, hate messages online is a really, really disturbing and bad thing today. Like if I give you an example, in Twitter today, to curb these problems, we have the community notes to distinguish between something which is factual from something which is not factual, right? And there must be the freedom to deliver whatever you feel is within you, right? But there must be a control on that as well. Because without control, then it's going to be keyboard warriors clicking everywhere, and that's not ideal. I think it all boils down to not just about speaking wisely, but it's about also speaking correctly, the tone, the delivering of a message. You see this everywhere, and sad to say, it's of course part of our social media culture today.
Okay, nice answer. And then I got another question for you is, do you think individuals should be held accountable when they cross the boundary of freedom of speech, like using all the hate comments and then cross the boundary too much for them?
Oh, definitely. That's why we have such a thing called cyber harassment today. We have anti-bullying crimes, all of these things. All of these things are to basically regulate these problems. You know, you have to control it. You know, that's the whole purpose of law, isn't it? If there were no laws, people would just do whatever they want, and that's not ideal, that's not correct. So whilst I believe that freedom of speech should definitely be there, it should definitely be something which we know is our right, there must be also some control on it. Otherwise people say whatever they want to say and they label it as freedom of speech. But freedom of speech really means about speaking the right things, speaking the correct things. And even though I disagree with you, I convey that in the right way. And hate crimes should be controlled, violence should be controlled, hateful messages should be controlled. And that's not freedom of speech.
We're talking about war, right? How do you think the war should be in today's world, like regulating the freedom of speech nowadays? Like, how are the parliament supposed to spread the war? Like, what kind of war they should create?
Okay, so I think online platforms definitely have the power. They just need stricter regulations from laws, ministers of telecommunication and whatnot, to actually give the power to all of these authorities to curb this very seriously. And I think that Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, they're already doing it right now already. They are doing all of these things. In fact, it has started years on end. You look at sports today, football games, they don't allow people who are hateful to walk in. So I think we're actually moving in the right direction. To fully control everybody is very tough, because you are going to get bad apples here and there. You can't say that everybody is good and nice and happy. You're going to get people who are, of course, going to deliver hateful messages. But at the same time, laws, I do believe it's already there. You see it even more strictly being controlled today, especially in our handphone era, right? So yeah, I do believe it's right there, and it's only going to get even more stricter. Yeah, even more stricter.
Okay, that's all from me.
Okay.
Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you very much. See you all.
My name is Nida. This today's topic is about freedom of speech, and I'll ask you a few questions about your view on freedom of speech. Right. So the very first step, so do you think that there's still freedom of speech in today's world? Let me give you an example. During the Charlie Kirk incident, right? They're talking about his own freedom of speech, but he got shot in that, right? So do you think there's still freedom of speech going around, or maybe just only the thing they wanted to hear, not they wanted to speak?
So your question, if I can rephrase it, you want to know whether freedom of speech still exists today? Okay, I think in a very real way, I think freedom of speech has been alive for a long time, alright? I think the Charlie Kirk issue was probably a bit extreme of an exception, in the sense that it is not a situation where he has just stood up one day and he started giving his speech, and then somebody decided to take a gun and blow his head. I don't think it works that way. I think the Charlie Kirk issue is something that has been going on for years, right? And though I feel that how anybody, the shooter reacted or anybody else reacted, was definitely not the right way to go, all right? Definitely not the right way to go. And just because somebody shot Charlie Kirk, I don't think freedom of speech is dead. I think that is something that will always go on. That means if you are a politician, right, somebody can assassinate you as a politician. That doesn't mean politics is dead, or it doesn't mean that certain aspirations are dead. Yeah. So I totally I have to accept that Charlie Kirk being shot has a lot to do with people wanting to voice, how dare you say that? How dare you speak that way? So people are trying to say that, you don't have a freedom of speech to speak like that. And I think that's wrong. Because Charlie Kirk was just expressing himself. Charlie Kirk just wanted to share with people, to say, look, this is an open dialogue. Let me speak openly, you speak openly as well. But you see, unfortunately, not everybody has that same frame of mind. Some people have too much pent-up anger, so they go around killing politicians, they go around killing people who are kind, they go around because they don't believe in what you are saying. So the only way to react is to get rid of it. Right? Okay.
So you were saying about Charlie Kirk, to talk about Charlie Kirk, right? Do you think there should be any punishment or they should help accountable if they cross the boundaries of freedom of speech, like racial discrimination or hate speech? Do you think there should be any punishment for them, or maybe they are protected under the constitution, which is freedom of speech?
Hold on. You're asking me whether Charlie Kirk, whether there should be some kind of control over what they say. Is that what you're asking me? Should there be a control over the
Means right, what I think is that should they be held accountable if they cross the boundaries of freedom of speech? But their freedom of speech is protected under Constitution, right?
Yeah.
I think there should be punishment for them.
No, I think, yes, I would totally agree. I think it doesn't matter who you are, whether you're a politician, whatever it is, there must be a limitation to what you should say. And I think it's even more important, for example, okay, let's say now you're all classmates, you all sit in a class and you all start talking, you all will say a lot of things. But I think your responsibility of what you say becomes a lot higher when you start holding positions. So for example, if you take our MPs in our Malaysian parliament, I don't think they have a right to stand up and throw a racial accusation. You can't turn around and say, oh, but it's my freedom of speech in parliament. No, I wouldn't agree. I think who you are is very important, and the higher you are on that rank of hierarchy, it gives you even more responsibility to be careful with what you share. You can't just share what you like and say, oh, it's freedom of speech. No. So freedom of speech cannot be encouraging hatred. Freedom of speech cannot be racial. You can't have a freedom of speech and say, I'm going to kill the king tomorrow. That's not freedom of speech, right? I mean, that would be a clear situation of you going against the very essence of from as Malaysians, it will be our Rukun Negara, things like that.
Yeah, yes. So talking about let me ask you a question. How do you think the law should be in regulating freedom of speech? Should that law be harsh toward them, or maybe there should be moderate punishment for them who cross the boundaries of freedom of speech?
Okay. So you want to know whether I think there should be harsh punishment?
How the law should be,
Okay, if I was to go with my personal opinion, I would say it should be harsh. Why? Because people who have positions are very capable of inciting wars, inciting fights, inciting hatred, which is like they always say, one rotten egg will spoil the whole basket. So if you have one very rotten politician, that's going to spoil the entire government, So, and what this one person chooses to say, if you're saying that it's extreme, it's without boundary, then I think it's only right that the government takes action against this person. Because this person would have caused more damage than you can imagine. But that damage is not caused physically, That damage is caused with his words, yes, which then can actually incite hatred amongst the group that's listening. And that hatred can be very deep-setting, People can carry that hatred for 10 years, for 15 years. Whereas if somebody comes up to you and gives you a slap, your face can only be red for 5 days. And then it's all over, right? But when somebody says something and incites hatred within you, I think it can go on for years. And that's basically how, you see suicide bombers, who are bold enough to put an entire bomb on their body and go and blow themselves up. And then you're wondering, where did you get that kind of courage? Wow, where's it coming from? But that's not coming from just one day of hatred. I think that's coming from years and years and years of social engineering. Your brain has been twisted round and round and round, and you've got so much of hatred that you can just decide one day to get up. Okay, this is the group that has caused so much of suffering in my community, so I'm going to put on the bomb and I'm going to come and blow all you fellas off. Yeah.
So for my last question is, so if you say there should be harsh punishment towards those who have gone through the boundaries, right? So won't this go be contrary with what the Constitution want to protect us from freedom of speech? Won't this go against what the Constitution?
Okay. So the Constitution wants to protect freedom of speech, but the Constitution also wants to protect those who have no limitations on freedom of speech. Is that what you're trying to say?
So means government should control what people should say because it should be harsh rule, right? So Does it wrong because government are trying to limit what people are trying to say, senior trying to mask out their thoughts? Okay.
Now this is definitely, okay, I'm sure you know by now, and especially when you guys are already foundation in law students, you're already starting to study law, you realize that in law, or even in real life, not everything has a clear yes-no answer. Alright? So I think whilst freedom of speech is to be allowed, I think even freedom of speech must have boundaries. Right? Even freedom of speech must have boundaries. So yes, we have a clear platform, I think, to sit down and discuss. So it all depends. If let's say the rally is about us discussing, okay, I'll give you an example. Let's say there's a rally today that's going to be held in Padang Kota. Everybody's invited. We are all going to openly speak about whether abortions must be allowed. Alright? Everybody is open to speak about whether abortions should be allowed. And I think that to a large extent is freedom of speech. But I'll tell you when it's going to go all wrong. When one group starts throwing a racial element to say, it's all this particular race that's aborting their children. This race does not abort their children. And that for me is going out of the topic. Because what's going to happen is, remember what I told you earlier, freedom of speech is a very positive thing. Freedom of speech is supposed to encourage you to allow your mind to grow, for you to understand, hey, that person has a view as well. I can look at it that way. So it's for us all to learn from each other, for us to grow, right? And especially that you guys are grooming to become lawyers. You need that talk. You need that difference in opinion, because someday you're going to go in and represent your client, and then your opponent is standing up and saying all these things which are totally the opposite of what you are fighting for. But you know what? You still need to accept it, isn't it? Because that person is also standing in court, presenting those arguments in front of the judge, who is then listening to both very varying sides. So I think the greatest element of appreciating your mind growth is to appreciate freedom of speech. And it's a very positive thing, you know, for us to speak openly about even sensitive topics. But because there is also this important factor that you must protect every individual, and what you want to make sure is that you don't want aggression. As a result, you don't want riots. So when somebody crosses the line of freedom of speech, I think the government should take action. They should take action. Yeah? So definitely, because the thing is, you want to keep freedom of speech healthy. So you realize that in life, you cannot go with, oh, freedom of speech is okay, freedom of this is okay, freedom of expression is okay, everything is okay. But when you cross boundaries, it's not okay. So I think everything in life must come with a bit of measurement. You can talk, but you need to know where to draw the line. Right? So freedom of speech is definitely a good thing, but you cannot say that I'm therefore free to speak on anything. If I was invited to Padang Kota to speak about abortions, I think I speak about abortions. I can't be there to throw my darts on every other race, take the opportunity. Oh, you know, it's you fellas who are all getting pregnant at the age of 15. It's only this race that's getting pregnant. I mean, that is going to cause an entire tsunami and a riot in Padang Kota. People might run home, bring their little parangs and start swinging at everybody. So where did that freedom of speech take you? Nowhere. You've not achieved anything. That's why I'm saying freedom of speech positive, but freedom of speech also must be limited. Okay?
I think that's all for now for our group. Thank you so much for your insightful talk. Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you. You're most welcome. You want to close that first? Sit down. Okay. Close that first. Okay.
Now we can see the suspect coming with the accompany of the police.
Oh, fine, it is the whole
The process